So as I'm sure you're all keenly aware, this is McLaren and they are undoubtedly the best team in Formula One right now. And for the 2026 season, they just signed MasterCard as their brand new title sponsor for the team. And we are also very, very familiar with MasterCard. They're not a small company and they do have a history in Formula One. A very bad one. See, the last time MasterCard was the title sponsor of a Formula One team, it was all the way back in 1997. Lola, starting in 1994, had been developing a car they planned to take Formula One racing. They just, well, didn't have the money to do so. So they continued to test and develop the car, hoping against hope that someone would come along and give them that big old bag of money. Enter MasterCard, who was keen to sponsor a team, and they saw Lolo's progress and they thought, that's where we're gonna go. Now, I don't need to tell you, developing a car from scratch, even though you've had years to do so, is not an easy task, especially in a sport as cutthroat as Formula One. However, Lola's progress was going pretty well and it was very encouraging, and they were looking forward to the 1998 season to debut their car and, well, take on the best the world had to offer. However, MasterCard took one look at the progress and said, hell, why wait a year? Let's get this car on the grid for the 1997 season. Now, in today's day and age, that sounds pretty damn ridiculous, and, well, back then it was too, especially when you consider that Lola was developing their very own V10 engine to put in the car that wasn't finished. So in order to be on the grid for the 1997 season, Lola had to go elsewhere and look for an engine the car wasn't designed for. So they called up Ford and said, hey, we need an F1 engine. Ford's like, sure, have ours. And then they put it in the car, which isn't exactly as easy as an engine swap as you'd think it would be. Lola made it work and they went racing, sort of. The first race of the 97 season was in Australia, and Lola showed up with one decent driver and one not so decent driver with a car that was sort of cobbled together at the last minute, and, well, the first practice came around and things were actually somewhat promising. However, there was a slight issue with that. See, everybody else, they were just doing race runs full of fuel, all that stuff. Lola was doing practice qualifying runs, an issue that would creep its head in, well, wouldn't you know, qualifying. And to the shock of absolutely nobody, the two Lolas were the slowest cars on the grid. At best, they were 11 seconds off the pole sitter's time, and at worst, they were 13 seconds off the pole sitter's time. And that was a problem because Formula One had a 107% rule. So if you were more than 107% slower than the pole sitter's time, you don't qualify for the race. So the first race weekend was in the books. They had a car that was biblically slow. They didn't qualify for the race, but it was a new team. So you forgive the team for having the attitude of, hey, let's dust ourselves off and, well, try it again in the second race weekend. However, by the time they didn't qualify for the Australian Grand Prix, the team was already $6 million in debt, and, well, there was never a second race weekend. Lola MasterCard, they were finished. They'd never race again.